The talent of Douluo continent is king, and the quality of martial soul determines a person's future. Isn't it true that there are no useless martial souls, only useless soul masters? Crossing the Douluo continent, Jiang Xian, who was mistakenly mistaken for a fire seed martial soul, was unexpectedly rejected by the academy. And when his talent shows up. Group ID, 66024045, sorry, I don't need your exceptional admission. I will withdraw from Shrek College. Keywords of the novel. Douluo. Starting from Shrek's dropout without pop-ups, Douluo. Starting from Shrek's dropout, download the complete text, Douluo. Starting from Shrek's dropout, read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Teaches only geniuses. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 teaches only geniuses. Barak Kingdom of Douluo continent on the outskirts of a city far away from the control of the martial soul hall, there are about 100 households at the entrance of the village, which looks like a village. Despite the scorching sun, a long queue has formed. There are many adults and children gathered there, and I don't know why. There is a table placed at the entrance of the village, and behind the table sits an elderly man in his 60s. A somewhat tattered plaque hangs from a wooden arch with the simple 5 characters. Shrek Academy. Finally arrived, Shrek College. At the back of the team, a young man dressed in black tightened his sleeve and looked towards the place he had come all the way to. I hope Grandpa doesn't get angry with me for this. Jiang Xian murmured words in his mouth, not as noisy as other people in the queue, but rather quietly waited for the moment of his detection. Before Jiang Xian, there were about 100 applicants, many of whom frowned, probably shocked by Shrek's poverty. The boy in front said a familiar line, "Are you mistaken? Is this the so-called Soul Master Academy, or the academy that claims to become an imperial viscount after graduation?" The young man's father said with some uncertainty, "This is what the people from the Martial Soul Hall said. There shouldn't be anything wrong, right? But this academy is really a bit run down. It's not surprising that they have such thoughts." If they weren't familiar with the original work, Jiang Xian would find it hard to believe that there are several soul emperors and soul saints in such a rundown college. That's right, compared to what the boy called a middle school, it's naturally much more advanced. Whether many middle schools have soul emperors or not is a different matter, let alone soul masters at the level of soul saints. That's right, if it weren't for Jiang Xian himself being a lucky person who traveled to the Douluo continent, he wouldn't have believed it either. Jiang Xian did not pay attention to the conversation between the 2 dragon sets, and could clearly hear the conversation of the person in front of him during the operation of soul power. A girl in a pink dress and an ordinary-looking man in a blue vest were walking up to the old man. They were probably the male and female protagonists Tang Men, Tang San, and the soul beast transformed into Xiao Wu in the Douluo world. Tang San had an ordinary appearance, which would be difficult to recognize if placed in a crowd, but the 100,000-year-old soul beast-shaped dance with a pair of rabbit ears was very easy to recognize. Jiang Xian didn't pay much attention to the 2 of them. Although Tang San's soul power is the same as his own, he is very sensitive when he is only at the 2nd ring level. If he realizes that he is observing secretly and mistakenly believes that he is not good for his sister, he will feel uncomfortable. With his vengeful personality, he may not necessarily provide himself with a hidden weapon to serve. Now that the Soul Master's cultivation level is not up to par, he cannot bear it. He immediately withdrew his gaze and silently waited for himself. The reason why I came from afar to Shrek College to enroll is because I came with a so-called check.in system when traveling, and I had to sign in at the designated location. For this reason, when I told my grandfather that I wanted to register for Shrek College, I even blew my beard and glared at him. When it comes to cultivation, my grandfather and grandmother are really much higher than the teachers at Shrek College. I was thinking about what would happen after joining Shrek Academy in my mind, and I was staring at my grandfather and sister who were all obstructing their desire to join Shrek Academy and become the 8th monster. There was nothing wrong with that. If you follow the protagonist group, there may be a halo to support you, and besides that, fairy grass should be indispensable to you. Sorry, the registration fee for those who do not meet the standards will not be refunded or exchanged once paid. Why? By what? By strength. Jiang Xian's thoughts were interrupted by a commotion. It turned out to be the father and son who had paid the golden soul coin in the original plot but found out that those who did not meet the standard were rejected. At this moment, they were trying to recover their registration fee but were brutally stopped. It seems that the robust soul lord man with 1,000-year-old 3 rings is Dai Mubai. Jiang Xian couldn't help but shake his head, thinking that if it weren't for the help of the protagonist's halo, he might have been left with nothing as a corrupt prince by his brother, and even harmed Zhu Zhuqing, whom Jiang Xian admired the most in Douluo. Jiang Xian couldn't bear to see such behavior, but because he was also a person who came to sign up, he had to swallow his words again. Yes, without strength in Douluo continent, everything is just empty talk. What would happen if the father and son, who were in charge of recruiting students at the door, showed their cultivation as the sole emperor? They had to pack up and take this loss, then turn around and leave. The majestic prince has fallen to the point of being a gatekeeper and thug, and it is unknown where Dai Mubai's pride comes from when he faces these applicants who are only slightly better than ordinary people in front of him. With a lesson from the past, many students who did not meet their soul power standards and their parents turned around and left. They couldn't help but demand high standards, and the registration fee was not refunded. No one dared to say a word more about a soul emperor staying here. Due to the retreat of personnel, the long queue quickly arrived at Jiang Xian's place, and the 2 girls separated by a few people must be Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong. One hand is holding the 7 treasures glass pagoda, and the other is scratching her ears with both hands to show a cat ear shape. Her eyes have also changed to vertical pupils, so who else can they be? Not bad, 2 level 20 soul masters. You have passed the test, but Xianiazi, do you know if you sneak out of your family? Hehe, my father agreed for me to come out. Compared to the seriousness just now, the old man's tone became much gentler towards a girl in front of him who clearly had a special identity. It was unclear whether it was due to her displayed talent or the meaning behind the tower-shaped martial soul scattered with colorful light. Ding sign into Shrek Academy, task completed, system loaded and starting. Just as the queue reached me, the system in my mind was finally loaded, but it happened to be undergoing testing. I'll see if there's anything special about the system later. Extend your hand. Jiang Xian extended his right hand to let the other person test his bone age. The old man closed his eyes and felt for a few seconds before saying, "Not bad, it's exactly 12 years old. Let's release your martial soul." According to the rules, no soul power at level 20 is qualified. Good. Jiang Xian withdrew his right hand and silently recited in his heart, "Martial soul possessed." In an instant, the few people who had been waiting before all saw the martial soul of the last young man, as well as the 2 bright yellow centenary soul rings next to him. Level 20 is right, is that the martial soul? The old man's dim eyes were somewhat surprised, and he couldn't help but lean forward and ask, "Is your martial soul a spark?" Spark. Spark. Upon hearing this, several others also looked towards the young man's hand, where a blue lotus-shaped flame lay quietly in Jiang Xian's palm. "That's right, it's just a spark." "But," Jiang Xian replied. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Abandoned Martial Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Abandoned Martial Soul. If it's just a spark. The old man fell into contemplation. Although there was only a 1-word difference between fire seed and flame, their power was vastly different. Flame was the top level existence in elemental martial souls, and fire seed was only the predecessor of fire. Many people have awakened to the idea that fire seed martial soul can evolve into a flame again in this life, and it is unknown whether or not. And if it's just the spark, he knows that among the few spark martial soul owners, without exception, no one can break through the cultivation of the Soul King. The youth is not like the blue-silver grass mentioned by the dean earlier. After a while, the old man finally spoke up and said, "I'm sorry, your soul power does meet our enrollment requirements, but your martial soul has innate disadvantages and limited achievements. It's better to find an intermediate college to learn more theoretical knowledge. Surprisingly, there are martial souls with limited levels in this world. I heard that you can only cultivate to level 49, but I heard that the quality of the martial soul is too low." Other students are discussing extensively. Tang San on the side felt a pity for the last student who signed up. It was not because the other party couldn't join Shrek, but because the spark in the young man's hand resembled the appearance of a peerless hidden weapon of the Tang clan in his memory. "My martial soul quality is low. Can't I cultivate to the Soul King?" Upon hearing these words, Jiang Xian couldn't help but have a strange expression on his face. He kept asking two questions as if he couldn't accept them, as if he had heard a high-level soul master criticize him for not being able to accept his death penalty. "So because I can't cultivate to the level of Soul King, Shrek won't accept me anymore. I have already met the admission requirements for level 20, haven't I?" "Well, kid, go back, and even if your soul power reaches the level 20 requirement of the first level, there will still be levels for assessing the quality of your martial soul in actual combat. Your fire seed martial soul is obviously flawed and naturally cannot meet the requirements." Jiang Xian didn't know if he should laugh or curse at the dragon pattern stick soul emperor's words, and his dissatisfaction led him to ask again. "Are you really not accepting me because of the martial soul issue? Isn't your academy known as the Monster Academy? As a naturally deficient martial soul, can I still be considered a monster if I can cultivate to level 20 or above at the age of 12? You child, they all said that your martial soul is not a matter of cultivation speed, and you cannot reach the Soul King's level. You are just a low-level soul master for the rest of your life. You should retreat." The dragon pattern stick soul emperor changed his previous appearance of harmony in front of the martial soul and directly rejected Jiang Xian's admission. The fire seed martial soul, although not very common for the elderly, can be seen in many records of the martial soul hall, and there are also many current or existing martial soul owners. It is not considered a top-level martial soul, but also has such obvious flaws that they naturally cannot accept it. If it is accepted, will he be allowed to graduate in the future or not? Speaking it out would damage the reputation of their brothers and Shrek's reputation. Shrek, only accept monsters. If the age exceeds no, the soul power level cannot reach no, and even the martial soul quality needs to be a genius among geniuses. So that's really what it means. Jiang Xian lowered his head. This is not a sign of his sadness. I just want to laugh. If all the above standards can be met, which advanced college in the whole mainland wouldn't treat such students as treasures? The cultivation resources are not better than you, a rundown Shrek who still needs to teach gold soul coins to enroll. Moreover, is one's own martial soul truly a spark? On the system panel, Jiang Xian's personal attribute panel can be seen at a glance with just a few words of silence in his heart. Name: Jiang Xian. Age: 12 years old, soul power. Level 29-inch, martial soul. Qinglian earth heart fire, not awakened. That's right, Jiang Xianzhen is not a type of fire seed martial soul, but the Qinglian earth heart fire on the famous strange fire list in Duki continent. It's just that he doesn't know if it's due to world rules or other influences. Now, his martial soul appears as a green lotus-shaped flame seed form. Not to mention whether he can only cultivate to the level of Soul King, as the Soul Emperor, who sees people as inferior, said before him. However, even if he can only reach the level of a soul sect, with the power of Qinglian Earth's heart fire, he is confident that he will burn down this dilapidated Shrek Academy. Third brother, it's okay, Xiaowu. We can't influence the teacher's thoughts either. It's really difficult to solve the martial soul defect. Seeing the young man in black not speaking for a long time, the other young people present thought he was deeply hurt and couldn't help but feel pity. And Zhu Zhuqing, who happened to be standing near Jiang Xian, took a deep look at the young man. She was close enough to see his expression completely. That's not a sad expression from being hit, it seems a bit mocking and somewhat disdainful. The only thing that can be confirmed is that the resolute gaze on the path of cultivation is very similar to oneself, really very similar, not some coward who only knows how to compare with twin sisters. Alright, since it's a useless martial soul, don't waste our time here. Follow me to the next level after you've passed and accept the teacher's next test. Seeing the familiar figure in his mind, Dai Mubai was a bit flustered, and the black Qianying's repeated attention to the trash in front of him made the young man restless and irritable. Abandoned martial soul. Say it again. Jiang Xian lifted his head and stared straight at Dai Mubai, who was speaking wildly. Shit, the useless martial soul is the useless martial soul. Do you know who you're talking to? I'm Dai Mubai, the martial soul is White Tiger, and now I am the existence of the third ring soul lord who can cultivate to at least the level of soul Douluo in the future. Saying that you, as a fire seed martial soul, cannot even cultivate to the level of soul king is a problem with the difficulty of defeating the useless martial soul. Dai Mubai didn't know what to do today. When facing the Qianying who was found from the Star Luo Empire, she easily became irritable and had to use loud scolding to cover up her anxiety of disappearing for several years and avoiding responsibility. Okay, Jiang Xian, the 29th level soul master is challenging you with Dai Mubai's hair. Yo ho, I'm not convinced yet. If someone who doesn't even have a soul master to beat you can use the third soul skill to count me as a loser, okay. Mr. Soul Emperor, I hope to challenge him. Jiang Xian took a step back and said to the dragon pattern stick Soul Emperor on the other side, that revealing his soul ring and cultivation in Douluo continent basically represents a challenge to the person in front of him. Basically, there are no special circumstances that will make a challenge. You. The old man doesn't know what to do in the face of such a situation. Strictly speaking, both of them are Shrek students. The conflicts caused by the inappropriate remarks of their own students during the enrollment period cannot be justified by reason or emotion. Li Yusong was about to stop the two of them, but as he stood up, he was pulled back with both hands. The owner of the hand agreed and said, sure, if you can defeat Dai Mubai without the third soul ring with your strength at level 29, I will approve you to join Shrek Academy. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Battle Dai Mubai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Battle Dai Mubai. The speaker was none other than Frank, the dean of Shrek College and the Four-Eyed Owl. He saw this scene not far from Shrek Academy and was also curious to see how much skill this young man, who could cultivate up to level 29 at the age of a flawed flame soul, had. As for whether he can break through the martial soul limit and cultivate to a higher level after the actual battle, it depends on his fate. After all, the famous Seven Treasures Glass sect in the mainland still has their own martial soul limit that cannot be broken, let alone a rotten fire seed martial soul. It's not surprising that Dai Mubai spoke rudely. In their eyes, what can the fire seed martial soul do? Do you light firewood to cook? Don't laugh your big teeth out, so no one spoke up to stop the student from using his martial soul. I really don't know where your pride comes from. If Dai Mubai hadn't read the original work, I couldn't tell your fierce and cunning appearance at this moment. Unfortunately, in front of me, your behavior is nauseating. Jiang Xian adjusted his breathing so that Dai Mubai could move to another spacious square under the attention of the Four-Eyed Owl. Shrek's already poor economy, it won't be good to break through the school gate later. Dai Mubai had previously encountered Tang San's already depressed mood when he was eating flat, and was looking for nowhere to vent his anger. He happened to use this ignorant young man to vent his anger. I saw him shout loudly, White Tiger, possessed. Remember, young man. Dai Mubai, martial soul. White Tiger, level 37 War Soul Zun. A strong pale light suddenly burst out from his body, and Dai Mubai's arms extended to both sides at the same time. His chest straightened out, and his bones crackled and his muscles suddenly expanded, lifting his already tight clothes as if his shirt was about to be torn apart. Each muscle became extremely prominent under the clothes, and the air around seemed to become manic in the state of possessed martial souls. Her golden hair instantly turned into black and white, with white accounting for the majority, and a few strands of black hair were particularly prominent among them. 4 faint lines appeared on the forehead, 3 horizontally and 1 vertically, forming a perfect character for Wang. When possessed by beasts such as the white tiger martial soul and the ghost cat, their hands undergo the greatest changes, doubling in size compared to before. White hair covers the entire palm, and with the flick of 10 fingers, their short dagger-like claws continuously protrude and retract from the palm. Each claw is like a blade, 8 inches long, sparkling with a faint cold light. By comparison, Jiang Xian's martial soul possession has become much more low-key, without any flashy body changes. As an elemental martial soul, although the Qinglian Earth Heart Fire is in an awakened state, it is also a type of weapon martial soul that does not bring much change to the body. Just at the moment when 2 soul rings appeared, unlike the harmless lotus seed just now, a burning sensation rushed towards me. Is this really a flawed martial soul? The crowd standing aside thought to themselves, constantly comparing the known fire attribute martial souls in their minds, and found that even those soul masters with fire attributes who had reached the level of Soul King did not have a strong burning sensation caused by the fire seed, useless martial souls, in front of them. Note that it is much easier to determine the strength of elemental martial souls such as flame and ice compared to other types of martial souls. When elemental martial souls inject soul power into the body, their violent elemental energy can change the surrounding environment. And the young man in front of him, named Jiang Xian, was undoubtedly one of the best in martial soul. Several students couldn't help but doubt the conclusion of Teacher Li from Shrek Academy. Good kid, it seems that I made the right appearance. Has the fire seed martial soul mutated? Fran's small eyes revealed an imperceptible light, and the reason why he appeared early as the dean, as the young man had just said, couldn't a flawed martial soul that could cultivate to level 29 at the age of 12 indicate anything. Regardless of the outcome, all he needs to do is to make an exception and admit this young man. It doesn't matter if he can't break through level 50 in the future. Just looking at his attribute energy between level 49 and level 50, he may still be outstanding. If he finds a way to break through the shackles, wouldn't it add more honor to his Shrek? Hey, as a businessman, this is a guaranteed business. Let's fight. Spirited on the scene, Dai Mubai, who had the advantage, took the lead in launching an attack. The burning pain in front of him made him understand that the useless, martial souls in front of him seemed not as simple as they were said. The best way to deal with elemental martial souls was naturally to deal with beast martial souls, just like dealing with weapon martial souls. He only needed to engage in close combat to stand in the winning ground. The possession of the white tiger martial soul brought not only powerful attack power to Dai Mubai, but also a visible increase in defense, physical strength, and speed with the strengthening of his whole body. With a sudden push of his feet, he came to Jiang Xian's side, and his right hand was about to strike. The sharp tiger claws on the palm of that hand can be foreseen that if they are hit hard, the weak body of the martial soul master will definitely be unbearable. However, is Jiang Xian the kind of soul master who only knows how to rely on martial souls? The answer is negative. For Dai Mubai's preemptive attack, Jiang Xian only leaned slightly and used the flame energy of the Qinglian Earth Heart Fire to burst out, pushing his body to suddenly escape and leave his attack range. What a quick reaction! Everyone in the audience exclaimed in surprise. As the Soul Lord, Dai Mubai's attack speed was already very fast, but Jiang Xian, who was clearly a weapon and martial soul, was always able to react at the moment of the attack. The two of them had already passed more than 10 moves in their twists and turns. Although it seems that Dai Mubai has repeatedly attacked and gained the upper hand, it should be noted that one is the third ring soul lord blessed by the body of the beast martial soul, and the other is only a 29-level great soul master. Tang San was shocked. Could it be that the other party also practiced any specific body techniques? It doesn't look like having a body movement. For the fight between the two, Zhu Zhuqing was the most concerned person on the field besides Tang San, is the descendant of the family named White Tiger only at this level. At level 37, Dai Mubai faced off against level 29, who had an advantage before level 70 in terms of beast martial soul versus weapon martial soul. Dai Mubai fought so hard, and he couldn't talk about facing his genius brother in the future. Thinking of this, Zhu Zhuqing, who had a graceful figure and was not mature enough for her peers, once again had a slightly dim look in her eyes. From making up her mind to come here to search for the future, to now feeling extremely disappointed, it really only took a few short days. Meanwhile, Dai Mubai, who was in the midst of the battle, felt like something belonging to him had inexplicably disappeared. After several struggles, he couldn't touch the other person, which made him restless. And from the beginning, there seemed to be a sense of illusion. I don't know if it's an illusion. Do you only know how to hide back and forth? Hey, you're really interesting. A melee beast soul master asked me why a weapon soul owner dodged. Why, to compete with you for soul power is considered a skill. Jiang Xian's tone was relaxed, and he could still make fun of the big cat, indicating that there was still some room for improvement. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Flame of Qinglian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The Flame of Qinglian, Second Soul Skill. White Tiger Flame Light Wave. In terms of body movements, Jiang Xian's speed is indeed slightly faster than Dai Mubai's from the third ring, and he appears much more agile. He doesn't know how to train it, but Dai Mubai, who knows he can't fight attrition wars, does not hesitate to use his only long-range attack soul skill now. It is said that he does not use the third soul ring, but in terms of soul power, he will surpass Jiang Xian by a full 8 levels. If he cannot win this little loach for a long time, wouldn't he be laughed at by others? I saw Dai Mubai spitting out a white light wave from his mouth, targeting Jiang Xian who had just fallen and was in a stiff state. You can't escape this time, can you? Adhering to the principle of taking advantage of his illness to save his life, Dai Mubai followed the White Tiger light wave to bully him, and his first soul skill. White Tiger protects the body barrier while strengthening himself. It's not bad, it's not really stupid. Jiang Xian saw this and without hesitation, flew back. It was definitely too late to dodge. The White Tiger fierce light wave on the opposite side had a locking feature, and the left and right dodge time was not enough. Therefore, the Qinglian Earth Heart Fire, which was only in an possessed state, was finally summoned to the palm position by Jiang Xian. Shrek's group of people simultaneously saw the yellow second soul ring of the boy light up. Suddenly, smoke and dust rose up on the field. Hit! Dai Mubai stopped. He had originally planned to use some means to evade the White Tiger Flame light wave, so a close attack could serve as a means of understanding. Only the four-eyed owl, Frand, who was present clearly, shook. No effect, second soul skill. Fire dance and sunshine. The crisp voice of the young man rang out in the smoke, waiting until the dust dissipated. It was then that everyone saw what Frand meant by his statement of no effect. I've taken a look. Li Yusong couldn't help but marvel at the dragon-patterned stick. At this moment, Jiang Xian's whole body was surrounded by blue flames, and he forcefully ate a White Tiger fierce light wave wearing the Mubai third ring soul zone. Surprisingly, his body was not moving. If he were a useless martial soul, what was his own student? Wasn't he even useless? Flames, like living beings, serve as a special protective barrier for its movement, with no harm from smoke. Seeing everyone surprised, Jiang Xian couldn't help but sigh. No wonder Douluo World said it was the lowest end of the cultivation system. However, how could he understand the heavenly and earthly fire in Duki continent? Even if the rules of heaven and earth are different, which leads to a significant decrease in the power system in the Douluo world, the soul skill barrier constructed by the strange fire that even the Do King in the Duki world dare not easily touch can be broken by a small long-range soul skill. It's all you attacking, it's time to switch to me this time. Jiang Xian removed the barrier of abnormal fire from his body. As long as his soul power did not exceed him too much, the characteristics of abnormal fire were enough to make him fearless of so-called close combat. His previous evasion was just to try his daily physical training achievements. After all, many foolish people in Douluo continent only rely on martial souls, but neglect the cultivation of their own bodies. Poor Dai Mubai, if he knew that Jiang Xian in front of him was just being treated as an experimental subject, I wonder if he would spit out a mouthful of old blood. Don't bully the cat like this. Yes, what's the difference between an incompetent and barking tiger and a trained kitten in the zoo? Since it's dealing with disobedient kittens, that kind of thing is naturally the most suitable. First soul skill. Abyssal fire condensation. Jiang Xian murmured lightly, and the first centenary soul ring suddenly shone. The lotus flame in his hand spat out a long tongue of fire. Ah! Ning Rongrong, who was getting closer, was startled. Can you tell me that such a massive flame is the energy released by a useless martial soul? The flames kept changing in Jiang Xian's hands and eventually condensed into the shape of a flame whip. If the fire dance of the second soul skill, Yaoyang, is to increase one's own flame energy and provide a barrier of abnormal fire to protect oneself, then the abnormal fire transformation of the first soul skill is one's best attack method. Holding the strange fire whip in his hand, Jiang Xian's temperament became even colder, and he muttered, "Big cat over there, let me teach you one more thing. For martial souls, it's not just about being strong in soul skills. Developing one's own martial soul is the fundamental strength of a soul master." Shua, as the whip fell, Dai Mubai broke out in cold sweat. Unexpectedly, the flame could use the soul power of the two ring soul masters to release a large area of energy from the body. Looking at the ground beside him, the scorched black color told him that being whipped by such a flame whip was definitely not an easy thing. Did the other party just tilt it? No, it's mostly due to probing. The first soul skill white tiger protection barrier was once again released, and Dai Mubai, who was blessed, moved. He stayed in place and begged the other party to tilt it, which was a foolish behavior. At this point, he couldn't even think about why the other party could achieve the first soul skill and release the flames. You should know that even when the level of elemental martial souls is low, they dare not use soul power so extravagantly. Hey, didn't I just question that I only know how to dodge? Why, turn-based. Is it your turn to wear the young master and hide from XC this time? Damn it, the attack range of the flame whip is too wide, and he drives the flame like an arm, stretching and retracting as if he wants, without any soul power consumption, right? The cold mockery of the young man echoed through the center of the square, whether it was aimed at Dai Mubai who was fighting against him or intentionally or unintentionally at the blind enrollment teacher. The blue flame whip in his hand was as if he had life, and basically wearing Mubai Teng with a flame whip would follow him closely. From the appearance, this soul skill seems to be simply concretizing flames and using them as weapons, but its power is only known to Dai Mubai himself. The high temperature attached to the flame whip was something he could touch, and there were scorched black cracks on the hard ground. If it's hit, it's still worth it. Unlike Dai Mubai's embarrassment on the stage, the few girls off the stage saw small stars rising straight. Indeed, compared to the beast soul master, the way they controlled the flame whip to attack was no different from the graceful dancers performing. What a pure soul power control ability, Fran couldn't help but admire. What is a little monster? Isn't this just a little monster? Cultivation cannot exceed level 49. What does that matter? Is this attack style and talent unbeatable among peers? Can I defeat the opponent while using hidden weapons? Listening to the whispers of the treacherous dean next to him, Tang San secretly estimated that since the dean of Shrek College appeared, he had recognized this as the treacherous businessman who had been tricked in the city. However, for the enrollment teacher in front of him, he was the sole emperor, and his cultivation would probably be much higher. Since a high-level soul master praised the other party's fiery soul master so much, Tang San instinctively led himself into Dai Mubai and thought about how to defeat the other party. End of this chapter. Sorry for exiting chapter 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sorry for exiting chapter 5. No, it's completely restrained. After simulating various methods in his mind, Tang San surprisingly found that all his abilities had been completely defeated, and he would be tormented by this fire seed soul master at the same level. Not to mention the blue-silver grass, the suppression of plants by flames is the most obvious thing, let alone the unusual temperature of the flames in the person's hand. So being envied by heaven and unable to cultivate to a higher level. Tang San guessed so. Jiang Xian's second soul skill, Fire Dance Yaoyang, can even block the white tiger flame light wave wearing Mubai head. On. Tang San is well aware that ordinary hidden weapons cannot even break through the opponent's defense. And the hidden weapons that can break through defenses, such as the dragon beard needle, will greatly reduce their power even after encountering flames. After leaving the junior college, even though Dai Mubai and Tang San, who met the third ring, believed they were confident in killing them, he felt a slight sense of powerlessness for the first time when facing a soul master of the same level with a solid foundation like a hedgehog. Dai Mubai is going to lose. It is true that the soul saint of the beast soul master had an advantage over the soul saint of the weapon soul master before, but that was based on the difference in physical fitness. At lower levels, the soul power was insufficient and maintained for too long, and the physical reaction was not good. These reasons are often the reasons why the beast soul master was able to deceive and win close combat. But looking at the competition between the two at this moment, Dai Mubai has no advantage. The soul-free skill above physical fitness has proven that Jiang Xian is only stronger than Dai Mubai in the three rings. After all, one is an elemental martial soul and the other is a top-level white tiger martial soul. The blessing of martial soul possession on the body is not at the same level. Speaking of reaction ability, Dai Mubai's explosive power, which he usually takes pride in, is directly useless in front of the invincible fire whip. This is Jiang Xian's first soul skill. Abnormal fire condensation. The soul ring comes from a 100-year-old fire lotus with the same root and source. It has no other ability, but is simple, and can allow Jiang Xian to control his Qinglian Earth's heart fire to change any shape for attack as he pleases. The strange fire long whip can be long, short, thin, or thick. Although it is not suitable for some children, it is very comfortable to use against beast soul masters who are not good at speed and strong attack. Maintaining the soul power consumption of the flame whip is incredibly low, and Jiang Xian only needs to use his soul power to enhance the flame power at the moment of touching the opponent. Is the fire seed martial soul a waste? Now that Li Yusong, who made the final decision, has regretful intestines. If the fire seed lotus that can continuously provide hot flames are all useless martial souls, then his dragon pattern stick can also be called a burning stick. I've made eye contact. Li Yusong sighed inwardly. Luckily the dean had arrived, otherwise missing out on such a top-level element of martial soul that seemed to have awakened again might not be regretful. The soul power at the age of 12 and level 20.9 is even greater than that of the blue-silver grass kid next to him. The old man shamelessly thought and subconsciously ignored the appearance of his strict rejection just now. You have completely angered me. Third soul skill. White Tiger Diamond Transformation. I saw Dai Mubai's body muscles expanding with a loud roar, and black horizontal lines appeared on his skin. Surprisingly forced Dai to use the third soul skill. So the result would naturally be that Jiang Xian won. Dai Mubai's third soul skill was personally taken by Frand and Zhao Wuji to hunt. White Tiger King Kong is versatile and can double its resistance, attack, defense, and strength against abnormal states within half an hour of transformation. At the same time, it can enhance soul skills on its own. Equivalent to receiving the blessing of the third soul skill for the first and second soul skills. It seems that kid made Dai Mubai suffer a lot with his second ring soul master, otherwise he wouldn't be so angry that he forgot the competition rules just mentioned and directly used the third soul skill. Indeed, Dai Mubai's situation in the field was not good, with clothes on his body scattered in all directions, looking extremely disheveled. Although it was not a big deal, the burning on his face and body made him feel that his face was completely damaged. A soul master at level 37 was suppressed by a soul master at level 29. Is this Fire Seed Soul Master considered a control or a strong attack type? But let's see how you can block the bonus obtained by using your Millennium Soul technique. With the blessing of the White Tiger Diamond transformation, Dai Mubai's speed instantly doubled. The previously unbearable flame whip clearly couldn't keep up with his speed under control. Kid, it's over. Seizing the gap in the whip attack, Dai Mubai came forward with a hard blow to his face. The huge tiger claw aimed straight at Jiang Xian standing in place. Due to the second transformation, Dai Mubai, who had torn through his shirt from a distance, looked like a humanoid beast and was about to tear the little person in front of him to pieces. Jiang Xian naturally knew in his heart that Dai Mubai, who activated the Millennium Soul skill, could not be stopped by the first soul skill. Although the unique fire characteristic made the flame power enormous, he could still withstand a single damage with multiple times the increase. Dai Mubai is foolish, but his own talent is quite good. If it weren't for the 2 years of self-abandonment at Shrek Academy, he would have come to Soul Sect. Faced with the tiger claw that was within reach, Jiang Xian took 2 steps back with his right foot and fully retracted his long whip. At the same time, silently reciting in his heart, he said, "The first soul skill is the formation of a strange fire, and the second soul skill is the dance of fire and the shining sun. Activate 2 major soul skills simultaneously." The onlookers around saw that the blue lotus seemed to have grown slightly stronger, spitting out flames from the center of the lotus and directly enveloping Jiang Xian. The flames condensed from his entire body to his hands under the control of his master, and he did not intend to escape but directly faced Dai Mubai's angry blow. "You have the White Tiger Diamond transformation that strengthens your body, and I can also use the flame to strengthen myself. Come on, let's see which one of us falls to the ground first." Double bones. Pup dong, finally, 1 claw and 2 fists collided, and even an exaggerated wave of air was stirred up. Who won? Ning Rongrong asked out loud. Dai Mubai, I lost. Frand announced the result of the game with a meaningful message, and the smoke and dust from the final collision dissipated, making the result clear at a glance. Dai Mubai took 3 steps back, and on the other hand, although Jiang Xian was shot several meters away from afar, the Soul Lord, who was 8 levels higher than his own soul power, made a full effort to strike the young man without any problems. Hey, shouldn't it be Dai Mubai who won? Then Jiang Xianming was knocked away. Xiao Wu was a bit puzzled. Ning Rongrong naturally held the same idea, yes, yes. While pushing back 3 steps, he was knocked several meters away. Can Uncle Glasses watch the game? Cough cough, what kind of uncle? I'm your dean, and Dai Mubai lost. Strike the second ring in the third ring, and it's a full attack from the front, but it can't knock down the opponent. Whoever you say loses wins. Seeing the result, Zhu Zhuqing's eyes became even dimmer as he looked at Dai Mubai, whose shirt was shattered and panting heavily. You have been like this for the past few years, struggling through it. Alright, that's it. I'll take back what I just said for Teacher Li, young man, you are qualified to join our Shrek College, and I will officially admit you as the Shrek Dean. Since it's already finished fighting, Fran naturally needs to be a good gentleman. As the owner of the White Tiger martial soul, Dai Mubai has a hot temper and can't wait until he gets angry. It's not good to hit this little monster again. A little guy who can defeat the Soul Lord with the soul power of a level 29 Soul Master and remain invincible. I found a treasure. Join Shrek College. Sorry, I regret it now. I'm sorry I chose to quit Shrek. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Using Big to Bully Small. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Using Big to Bully Small. What, you refuse? Exit Shrek College. Did you hit your head in a fight? The people of Shrek cannot believe it. If you are unwilling to join Shrek Academy, what is the purpose of registering here? Yes, I voluntarily withdrew from Shrek Academy's registration, so I don't have to pay the registration fee. After all, I can't beat the 6-ring Soul Emperor. Jiang Xian walked past Dai Mubai, who had a skeptical expression on his face, and said as if his heart knot had been untied. At first, disregarding the opposition of his family, he came to this remote small village to prepare for joining Shrek Academy, with the idea of following the plot. If he casually hugged the protagonist's thigh, it would still be possible to become a deity at the end. But now it seems that I am wrong. After all, novels are novels, and there is still a considerable gap between them and reality, not to mention the skill of changing faces. Shrek Academy, which only accepts geniuses, doesn't value itself. Fran's eyebrows furrowed slightly, and as he grew old and refined, he couldn't hear Jiang Xian's dissatisfaction with Li Yusong's words just now. After all, he thought to himself that he was a teenager, and when he heard words that denied him, he must have had the greatest hostility. I still advise him that even if there are flaws in his martial soul, a genius, who can defeat the Soul Lord of the Third Ring in the Second Environment realm will still be a thing to come. It is worth cultivating now. Regarding Teacher Li's words just now, as the dean representing Shrek College, I apologize to you. Fran leaned slightly and continued, but I hope you can understand that the Fire Seed martial soul, whether in the records of the Martial Soul Hall or among the only remaining few in the world, has stopped at level 49. Teacher Li is really telling the truth that the graduation standard of Shrek Academy is to arrive at the Soul Sect before the age of 20. Now that you have shown your own strength and can draw directly with Dai Mubai, I will make an exception and admit you. Concerned about Dai Mubai's feelings here, Fran used the words, draw, and did not declare Dai Mubai's failure, although it was already an exception when he agreed not to use the Third Millennium Soul Ring during the gambling battle. So, why do I still want to join your Shrek Academy? When I was just admitted, it was clearly agreed that at the age of 12, I could register to participate by practicing at level 20, right? Jiang Xian politely dodged Frank's outstretched hand and said, however, it was your school's teacher, Lord Six-Ring Soul Emperor, who refused to enroll me on the grounds that my martial soul was flawed. I don't have any memory confusion. I didn't propose gambling to join your Shrek Academy for any reason, just to teach a lesson to some shameless big cat. Moreover, Jiang Xian pondered for 2 seconds and laughed. A so-called college that only accepts monsters has trained the Third Ring Soul Lord, but I can't even defeat someone below level 30. I don't think it's necessary to learn from you. Is it difficult to learn how to defeat the Second Ring Road in the Third Ring Road here? Jiang Xian could see Shrek's face very clearly. He said he only accepts monster students, but the actual teaching level cannot be compared to any high-level Soul Master Academy, let alone improve the resources that Soul Master Academies have. Bringing the protagonist into a previous life may not seem like much, but now being in an opposing position can only make one feel extremely nauseous. May I ask, a genius who can cultivate to level 20 or above at the age of 12 and still has top-level martial souls, cannot succeed in other colleges? Is it a dilapidated rural school that lacks resources for cultivation in your simulated environment? The young man's smile was incredibly mocking. Be careful when talking, kid. How dare you openly insult our college? Li Yusong stood up from the side, unaware that this person's every sentence was directed at him. Yusong. Sit down. Fran stopped Li Yusong, who had a tendency towards anger, and the young man in front of him couldn't move. From the perspective of clothing, it is not an ordinary commoner family background, but rather a young master from the so-called noble family. The strength is indeed commendable, but it's just that my temper is a bit bad. Yo, why am I telling lies? Is this going to be prepared to bully the small or something? Jiang Xian was not afraid, but instead directly questioned the two of them. Excuse me, was it you who refused to enroll when I just heard about the fire seed martial soul? I have repeatedly confirmed that you are the ones who strongly refused to join Shrek College, right? The so-called unconventional enrollment is based on the pretext that as a second ring soul master, I cannot be directly defeated by the 38th level soul master, right? Well, if I can't win, is it me lying on the ground now? Four-eyed owl, senior friend. At that time, would you give me a second glance? Would you accept me out of pity, or what would you do with me? Jiang Xian spoke word by word, his volume kept increasing, and there was no fear in his eyes towards a soul master at level 70. He asked the other person back. If one is not a special Qinglian earth heart fire soul, but an ordinary fire seed soul, and if one is not consciously exercising fire attribute affinity due to the relationship of rebirth and transmigration, then being defeated by Dai Mubai may become an overestimated behavior of an abandoned martial soul owner. May I ask, what is my reason to join such Shrek College? The young man's expression can be said to be somewhat ferocious. Standing beside him, Zhu Zhuqing lowered his eyebrows and didn't know what to think about. Even Tang San, who was guided by the teacher to Shrek Academy, couldn't help but suspect. Yes, a soul master trained by a so-called college that only accepts monsters has no choice but to lower himself by almost one level for a 12-year-old boy. Can teaching ability really be guaranteed? What a sharp-mouthed kid with sharp teeth. The reason for admitting you out of the ordinary is because of your hard cultivation and ability to fight beyond your level at a young age. I originally thought that after joining Shrek Academy, as your teacher, I could find ways to help you solve your martial soul deficiency. It seems that your kindness has been taken for granted. I'm asking you one last time, really giving up this hard-won opportunity? No need. Okay. Fran said 3 good words in a row, indicating that he was really angry with Jiang Xian's continuous language. For the sake of being a Shrek registered student, all you need to do is apologize. I will let go of the bad words you made about the college just now. Apologize. The boy's talent is dull and he doesn't know what's wrong. If he's not wrong, then why apologize? Do you still want to save face in front of Tang San and the others? Sorry, we're not scared too much. If we were worried about Fran bullying us before running a school, now Fran, along with the Demon King, inside, still needs to pay attention to his reputation. Of course, Fran cannot do anything to Jiang Xian. As an elder, it's still possible to teach the bear a lesson. Since you are unwilling to apologize, let's stay in Shrek and wait for your parents' arrival before apologizing to you. As he spoke, Fran prepared to pick up Jiang Xian and extended his right hand towards him. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Dragon Lord and Snake Mother. Request for recommendation ticket, monthly ticket. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Dragon Lord and Snake Mother. Request for recommendation ticket, monthly ticket. The shameless old man, he really hit me like a great soul master. Jiang Xian stood up with cold hair upon seeing this, and his words just now were based on the fact that the other party, as the head of the first college, would not argue with the registered students. Unexpectedly, this old man had no face and wanted to keep himself. Teacher. Dean. The few people who just joined Shrek spoke up. Although Jiang Xian's words were not rude, it's not appropriate for you as the dean to act against the younger generation. Don't worry, I won't do anything to you. I'm just teaching you a lesson on behalf of your parents. Next time, remember more and show respect to your elders. Humph. Are you going to teach my little Schwanzi a lesson for me? Frand, you're not qualified yet. Can a 7-ring soul saint resist his own attack? No. Just as Jiang Xian was ready to let the other party control him, a familiar shout echoed through Shrek's entire sky, and the soul power contained in the echo made everyone present cover their ears. A strong energy surged out of mid-air, but fortunately it was only aimed at Fran's right hand when he lifted Jiang Xian. Jiang Xian had to break free and take a few steps back. Who is it? Zhao Wuji, someone is smashing the scene. Fran's expression was solemn. Although he did not use soul power when capturing Jiang Xian, it was solely based on the physical fitness of the soul saint. However, being able to interrupt his incoming cultivators with just his strength would only result in a higher cultivation level than himself, not a lower one. For safety reasons, Fran shouted loudly to Zhao Wuji and immediately called out the second strongest member of Shrek College. Ha ha ha, why do you have moments when you can't control a place, Fran? A strong and hearty laughter came from within Shrek College, and among the students, only one was of low stature and an ordinary appearance. But it looks extremely sturdy. Jiang Xian, who is even shorter than the 12-year-old, has a strange height that can give people a sense of grandeur. His broad shoulders were like a city wall, and his coat could not conceal his muscular physique, which was cast like steel. Don't move Ming Wang, Zhao Wuji. Jiang Xian, who had escaped, naturally recognized his identity as another soul saint at Shrek Academy. Martial Soul Powerful Diamond Bear, Level 76 War Soul Saint. A college placed on the surface is a Soul Emperor and 2 Soul Saints, which are rare in terms of strength. If I remember correctly, in Jiang Xian's impression, Shrek College also has 2 high-level Soul Masters, one of whom is a Food-type Soul Saint. A college with good strength, but its vision and teaching level need to be discussed. But now is not the time to make a name for yourself. Walk lightly and quickly away from the center where the energy is spreading. Next, let's watch the good show. What's going on? Zhao Wuji came to Fran's side, and Li Yusong, the dragon-patterned stick, was already possessed by a martial soul. Owl, possessed. Before he could reply to Zhao Wuji, the pressure from the other party made Fran roar low, and soon the best martial soul configuration of 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black appeared on him. Fran's eyes became sharp, his hands were outstretched with sharp claws, and a pair of brown wings stretched out from behind. After being possessed by the martial soul, the pressure relieved a lot, and he flew into the air and asked loudly. I don't know which senior is visiting, Junior Fran, please show up. Humph. The owner who released his energy let out a cold snort, and then the sound came from afar and seemed to be coming from all around. Four-eyed owl, Fran. Don't move Ming Wang Zhao Wuji. What a big show. Others don't want to join your academy, but they even forcibly detain them. This is what you should do when you retire from the martial arts world and open an academy. The voice was somewhat aged, but the energy contained within it made Zhao Wuji feel pressure as he entered the circle, and he had no choice but to release his martial soul to resist. Powerful Diamond Bear, possessed. Soul Douluo. After being possessed by a martial soul, Zhao Wuji's height skyrocketed by 1 meter, and his swollen muscles and terrifying figure were no longer as small as before. Correo was like this, his expression was as solemn as Fran's. After being possessed by 2 martial souls as soul holy cultivators, and being able to provide pressure from afar, the only person who comes is likely to be a strong soul warrior or above. An owl, a blind bear, you are very good, you are very good. In the air, slowly seeing the incoming person, although one can vaguely see their age under their pale hair, their strong soul power not only makes them less sickly than ordinary elderly people, but also appears refreshed. Faced with the state of 2 martial souls possessed, the old man's dragon head and cane clung to the ground, followed by 1 soul ring after another swaying and appearing behind him. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 a whole of 8 soul rings. Soul Douluo. Seeing such a soul ring configuration, how could anyone present not know their cultivation level? Third brother, don't be afraid of Xiaowu, it seems that the other party is here to find the dean of the college and them. Seeing that it was a soul Douluo, a 100,000-year-old rabbit immediately hid behind Tang San, afraid that the other party would notice it. Fortunately, because it was a confrontation with Frand, the other party seemed to have not noticed him. Xiaowu could only find a way to lower her breath to the minimum, praying that the other person's attention should not be focused on this side. 8 soul rings, a martial soul dragon head cane. How could two people who have been walking on the mainland for many years not know the identity of the newcomer? Suddenly, his face became bitter, the legendary dragon and snake, the dragon lord Meng Shu. I don't know why Senior Long Gong visited my Shrek Academy, but a little incident just now made the senior laugh. Yes, our Shrek Academy is a bit shabby, and I don't know if Senior Dragon Lord came and didn't greet us in advance, which is truly impolite. Cooperating with Frand, Zhao Wuji, who was simple and not good at speaking, also licked his face and said. The strange attitude of the two made the other students confused, so even if the person who came was an 8-ring soul Douluo, adding 2 soul saints and 1 soul emperor, it wouldn't be so humble. Dai Mubai, who had previously fallen into self-doubt, now stood up and looked into the air. Soul Douluo. Soul Douluo. If you also have such strength, where do you need to escape from Star Luo like a lost dog to this heavenly Do land? Strength. Strength. Everything is strength. According to reason, Zhao Wuji and Frando were indeed able to escape their lives under the command of Soul Douluo. In the absence of the title Douluo, Soul Douluo was the only one in the world. The higher the level of soul master cultivation, the difference of one level is a world of difference, not to mention that Dragon Lord Meng Shu is not an ordinary soul warrior. The information that Frand himself knew was that a few years ago, the Dragon Lord Meng Shu had already reached the terrifying level of 88. Although he was old, he was only a step away from being titled Douluo. Furthermore, in general, when the Dragon Lord appears, the Snake Lady is also nearby. The Gaishi dragon and snake couple are basically inseparable. If the 2 soul saints still have confidence in protecting themselves against the soul Douluo, but if the other adds a soul emperor and can use the martial soul fusion technique that can threaten the title Douluo. No wonder the two of them had a low attitude. The author's idea here is that Tang Hao should still be protecting Tang San in the dark. Xiao Wu's identity as a soul beast must be known to the other party, so it is still possible to cover up her breath with a move. Therefore, it is set that the Dragon Lord cannot detect Xiao Wu's identity. If you think the author's writing is decent, it would be great to submit free recommendation tickets, such as monthly tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Of course there are old ones for those who are young. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Of course there are old ones for those who are young. Jiang Xian is very clear about the identity of the newcomer. Looking behind her, a kind woman with an old face was already standing behind her. Milk, Grandma. It's not that Zhao Wuji mentioned who else could be the snake lady in the legendary dragon and snake world, it just made Jiang Xian feel embarrassed. The person who came is her grandmother, the snake lady is fragrant to the sky. The soul Douluo in the sky is undoubtedly the Dragon Lord Meng Shu. Do you remember to call me Grandma, stinky kid? The old man glared and said, I'll settle the accounts with you later. Long Gong Meng Shu spoke again in front of the 2 soul saints, what am I doing here? I'm asking you guys, right? If you don't come again, will Shrek College detain my precious grandson? Xiao Xuanzi treated people politely from beginning to end, and went all the way to join Shrek Academy in admiration of his reputation. However, everyone was so narrow-minded that they looked down on him, insulting him with, useless martial soul. As the dean, don't you have to wait for his parents to apologize to you? Okay, now I'm here. Do you want me to apologize to you? Tell me. Meng Shu didn't give any face to the two of them word by word. Was it just bullying the small with the big? Sorry, I can do it too. Today is the day when Douluo is here, and your Shrek Academy also needs to explain it to me clearly. Jiang Xian is the grandson of Duke Long. Isn't your Long Gong surnamed Meng? How could a young man surnamed Jiang have gotten into a relationship with you? Fran couldn't express his grievances, so why didn't Li Yusong pass directly? Nonsense, the rules were set by himself, and after Jiang Xian showed his strength, he was also the one who was preparing to make an exception and was rejected to keep the other party. Damn it, old bird, you're causing a big trouble now, Zhao Wuji cursed inwardly. We hit the small ones and the old ones, but the key is that the old ones can't afford to cause trouble now. The snake lady stood next to the Jiang kid with an unfriendly expression in her eyes. It seems that today's thought process is not that simple. The Flender Cat Eagle martial soul, due to its inherent flying attribute, lightly tapped its wings and came closer to the Dragon Lord Meng Shu. It bowed and said, "Misunderstanding, misunderstanding. I don't know that Jiang Xian is your grandson. It is a great honor for us to have him register for Shrek. The judgment of the martial soul just now was caused by our teacher's clumsiness, so please don't take it to heart. And I don't have any other thoughts about keeping Jiang Xian. I dare not harm him at all. After all, even if I come here to register, it counts as half of my student. You should be grateful that you didn't show any malice, otherwise I wouldn't be standing and talking to you. Apologize." Long Gong snorted coldly. If Xiao Xuanzi is not my grandson and his parents are just ordinary people, what should you do? You insult students first by opening a college, and don't let my grandson tell the truth. My first reaction when I saw the Flame Seed martial soul was to refuse. After the Waste Soul Lord of the Third Ring was defeated by my grandson, I felt the desire to accept my disciple again. I was angry and embarrassed when I was refused. But what I said was the truth. Originally, Long Gong had been watching it all along, but poor Dai Mubai once again laid down his gun mercilessly. It was because Jiang Xian, who had tied the second ring, had almost become a negative lesson in their mouths now. I dare not, I dare not. Fran apologized repeatedly. How could he accept it? Can he be blamed for this? A fire seed martial soul is really a commodity on a bad street. Who knew it was your grandson, Dragon Lord? The combination of a dragon head cane and a snake head cane doesn't seem like it can give birth to descendants of elemental martial souls. Of course, Fran dare not express this sentence in his heart. So these people all have such faces. Jiang Xian saw through it the most thoroughly and suddenly understood some of the debates about Shrek in his past life. A dilapidated college with a registration fee of 10 gold soul coins and a tuition fee of 100 gold soul coins, but no one has any resources to provide students. Apart from running, it is also a soul fighting arena, where to train special forces. But the standard for accepting apprentices is to reach level 20 or above at the age of 12, and there are even additional requirements for martial soul quality. Previously, as an outsider, when I saw this scene, would only feel it was very exciting, and the high demands of the college were forcing glamour. What about now? Coming from afar to Shrek Academy to prepare to join them is not a fool. Is it because the cultivation of Soul Douluo grandpa is not as good as theirs? Or is it true that the resources of the Meng family are not as abundant as those of a destitute village? The graduation requirements mentioned in the original work, on the other hand, it seems that dozens of talented individuals like Ma Hongjun and Dai Mubai have been nurtured and disabled. Imagine Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun without the protagonist's halo, two 13 or 14-year-old students wandering around in a romantic environment. Surprisingly, the teacher is in a state of laissez-faire. Ma Hongjun can even be said to have a reason for his martial soul defect. What about this Star Luo Emperor who wants to become stronger? In a sense, isn't it because of the so-called indulgence of Shrek College that it has wasted years of time? Without Tang San as the protagonist, one would probably have been tortured by evil fire into an evil soul master and then chopped by the martial soul hall, while the other would have naturally become a puppet-like entity after failing to compete for the throne. Jiang Xian looked at the signboard with the name of Shrek College hanging without any need for sarcasm, and now it was really nauseating. Monster. It's just an exaggeration of facts to recruit students. Meng Shu, who was hovering in mid-air, saw that his grandson was fine and didn't pay attention to the special soul beast induction that flashed by just now. Perhaps he was lost in thought. The sharp and sour dean in front of him was still bowing his head, and Meng Shu grew increasingly disgusted as he looked at him. Quan Dang's grandson found out that the monster academy he wanted to join had been deceived. He repeatedly told himself that the monster academy he wanted to join was just like this, and it really went viral. Without saying too many grandiose words, both you and I know that if it weren't Meng Shu who came today, but other parents with lower cultivation than you, it would be our mistake. But now I also want to learn from you to bully the small and vent my anger for my grandson. Frand, level 78, Soul Saint, Zhao Wuji, level 76, Soul Saint. Old man Meng Shu, unfortunately, I broke through level 89 earlier. I want to test the level of both of you as college teachers. Take me 10 moves, I'll let bygones be bygones. If I can't take this Shrek Academy, I don't think it's necessary to exist anymore. Speaking of this, the old man's eyes were sharp, looking at the two as if they were dead. If it weren't for the special situation he had previously perceived, he would now want to pull the old lady and use a dragon snake strike to directly destroy this so-called Shrek Academy. What else can Fran say upon hearing this? The grandfather made it clear that he wanted to vent his anger on his grandson and gave Zhao Wuji a look, which he understood. What can be done with the anger that is about to break through the existence of the band Douluo? Let it be, as long as you don't use the martial soul fusion technique indiscriminately to completely destroy them, it's easy to say. The dragon and snake couple are not bloodthirsty either. Of course, I was secretly grateful that I hadn't been too rude to Jiang Xian earlier, otherwise I wouldn't have said so much to them. Please not hesitate to teach, Senior Dragon Lord. Please be merciful. Zhao Wuji and Franda, one in front and one behind, gave a posthumous salute and took the initiative to attack Dragon Lord with 10 moves. If it's just passive defense, it definitely won't work. Even if it's a siege, the two of them have to choose to take action first. If it's not a life or death battle, it's better to consider showing more losses later. I hope the other party can calm down. Zhao Wuji is the most innocent. Even if he hasn't done anything, he will be treated as a sandbag. Is this really a fate that no world can change? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Awakening of Qinglian. Recommended, monthly pass. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Awakening of Qinglian. Recommended, monthly pass. The power of the level 89 Soul Douluo is beyond doubt. Even though the two sides of Zhao Wuji and Franda's attack were sandwiched, they were all resolved one by one under the strong soul power of Dragon Lord, while the attack from the opponent's head crutch, which could be considered a superior martial soul, caused both of them to suffer. Flanders, the four-eyed cat eagle, is in a slightly better condition. After all, he belongs to the flying type of soul saint and can avoid many attacks in terms of speed. However, Zhao Wuji is relatively miserable. At this moment, his eyes were blue and his face was swollen like a bun, his speed was slow and his soul power was not comparable to his ability to run. He could only look like a beaten sandbag. The Dragon Lord also seemed to feel that beating Zhao Wuji was more soothing than beating a stray bird, so most of the stick strikes fell on Zhao Wuji. Frand also had a hard time, with many feathers on his body being cut off by powerful soul skills. However, fortunately, the other party did not have the intention to kill him, so the two could only grit their heads and get beaten. As for Li Yusong, one of the main culprits, the dragon pattern stick soul emperor. Long Gong strike had already made him lose his combat power, and he was now hanging next to the Shrek Academy sign. The battle between Soul Saint and Soul Douluo, except for a rabbit who was worried about revealing its identity and didn't dare to watch, others such as Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing, Tang San, were mesmerized by it. Ning Rongrong won't say much. Although there are two grandfathers in the family who are titled Douluo, their sparring basically won't let her, the little witch, see them. She usually dotes on them, so such fights are not particularly attractive to her. At this time, Tang San did not know the strength of his father who was hiding in the dark, so it was also the first time he had seen a high-level soul master's battle. The use of soul skills and the development of his own martial soul gave this young man, who held on to the hidden weapons of his past life, a new experience for the first time in his life. But the two were still in a state of shock, and Zhu Zhuqing, who was eager to become stronger, didn't want to miss a single detail. In order to keep up with the occasional movements of the few, Zhu Zhuqing even entered a state of martial soul possession, and his resolute gaze never missed any opportunity to make himself stronger. All of these were seen by Jiang Xian. It seems reasonable that everyone in their past lives liked Zhu Zhuqing the most. A beauty who combines beauty, perseverance, self-discipline, and relentless fighting spirit, who can refuse her charm. In contrast, her so-called fiancé A is really useless except for having stronger innate soul power. Ding, the Check.in enhancement system has been loaded, Novice Task 3. Sign in to Shrek Academy has been completed, Task Reward. Duki World Qinglian Earth Heart Fire Source. Task rewards are being distributed. The system, which had been stuck in a loading state just now, finally finished, but the prompt sound that followed made Jiang Xian panic. The origin of Qinglian Dxinhua. Don't distribute the system at this time. My martial soul is originally the Qinglian Earth Heart Fire, and the reason for not being awakened is simply the lack of corresponding fire attribute origin. In Grandpa's conjecture, it is only necessary to constantly obtain high-quality soul rings and evolve awakening through the continuous use of fire attribute energy to supplement. Now, the first reward of the system is the Qinglian Earth Heart Fire in Duki continent. Can you ask what fire attribute energy can match it in the entire Douluo continent besides the fallen fire dragon king? Just, Grandpa is fighting now, isn't it adding to the chaos if you give me rewards at this time? Jiang Xian really wanted to stop the system's behavior, but this Check.in system was like the first awakening, as if it only had to sign in, complete tasks, and distribute rewards. The Qinglian Earth Heart Fire has been released, and the martial souls are merging and awakening. Fusion degree of 1%. Wow, just as the battle between a few people entered a hot state, a scorching energy interrupted their movements. The closest Xiangxiang's face changed drastically and she suddenly jumped out of place. A towering blue wave surged out of the boy's body. That blue giant wave is not water, it is clearly a terrifying flame. Xianer. Chao Tianxiang shouted out, and Long Gong didn't care about the injured Zhao Wujin friend, and quickly walked to the ground. Li Yusong, who had regained his composure, quickly retreated with a few students when he saw that the situation was not right. What happened? What a terrifying flame, is this the energy that the teacher's trash soul can release? If these are all useless martial souls, then am I not even useless? Several men and women who passed the test earlier also had doubts about Shrek's teacher. Frand and Zhao Wuji were able to escape and arrived at the entrance of the college, unable to adjust their breath. Their eyes were also drawn to the raging waves like flames. Flames, as if possessing life, form a vortex in place, within which several blue lotus flowers can be seen swimming. Lao Li, you really caused a disaster this time. I'm the one who suffered the most, okay? You pulled me out without knowing anything and got beaten up. Frand was not angry at the Dragon Lord's move. After all, from his perspective, it would be a good temper if he didn't take action to understand himself. In Douluo continent, this is the case. The principle is to cultivate high soul power to be strong, and not daring to cause trouble is mediocre. However, if someone is stronger than you and wants to die, then you are purely an idiot. He was just a pity that a clearly strong and outrageous monster just arched his hand and pushed him out. Is there really a problem with the admission rules? From the energy unleashed by the young martial soul, it can be seen that there is no power that a flawed spark martial soul can unleash. Including his horse's level 30 cultivation, he is even more monster than the monsters around him. Is this the second awakening of the martial soul? Well, it's probably the old man. Chao Tianxiang stayed there until the flames stabilized, and later came to Meng Shu's side. Xiao Xuanzi had also experienced such a situation shortly after awakening his martial soul, and now the scale and state seem much better. Do you want it? Kao Xiangxiang, who was close to Dragon Lord, gestured to her husband and saw her grandson's secret Shrek crowd. Her intention was to avoid future troubles, as both parties had already settled a dispute because they had signed up for this project. Meng Shu shook his head and refused his wife's proposal. Leaving aside the current unstable state of my beloved grandson, it is true that a combination of dragon and snake attacks can indeed eliminate everyone on the battlefield, but it is difficult to guarantee that it will not affect the awakening of Xiao Xuanzi's martial soul. Moreover, in the dark, he could sense that there was another person whose cultivation was set above himself, but he didn't know what the purpose was, and since I am already at level 89 of soul power, it is not difficult to guess what level the person above me is. Dragon and snake are not afraid of being titled Douluo, but they can only wait patiently for a little while, considering that their grandson has not shown any malice. I just don't know what the sudden awakening of Xiao Xuanzi's martial soul was like. Long Gong Meng Shu's leading cane swung fiercely in the eyes of everyone, and a wider barrier was pulled out, faintly surrounding Jiang Xian, who was in a state of calm. Thank you to the 100 Battles Zongheng brothers for their reward. Speaking of the reward from the starting point, why can't I see it in the background? Is it because of the reason for the first creation? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Level 30. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Level 30. Although it was unclear what the specific situation was this time, Meng Shu knew that his grandson was in a relatively good state, despite the occasional palpitating aura emanating from the blue flames. Therefore, he could only wait quietly for this strange state to end. You should know that Jiang Xian is only at level 29, and with Meng Shu reaching level 89, the attribute energy revealed by his martial soul can make him feel palpitations, and his power can be imagined. That's not to say it will threaten him or anything, but rather a gap between innate level qualities. Jiang Xian was most aware of his own situation. After being suddenly rewarded by the system, the fire of the heart of Qinglian earth began to merge with the martial soul, and the flames that erupted were the fire of the origin of Qinglian. The level of terrifying flames from Duki world is naturally much higher than that from Douluo world. Even though Jiang Xian's soul power is low now, its energy level is not comparable to ordinary flames. Fusion degree 30%. 45%. 68%. The fusion of martial soul and Qinglian earth heart fire continues, with the protection of grandparents outside. Jiang Xian calmly feels the fire attribute origin of Qinglian earth heart fire. I don't know if it's because the martial soul itself is an awakened Qinglian earth heart fire in the form of a seed of fire, or if it's due to the intervention of the system. The fusion of the origin of the strange fire in the martial soul itself is smoother than imagined, without any unexpected pain, let alone the 9 lives of Comrade Xiaohuahua on the Duki continent who devoured the Qinglian earth heart fire. If Comrade Huahua knew about it, he wouldn't know if he would come from the vast world and cause trouble for himself. After all, the ability of the strange fire to affect the air with a low level of soul power makes even the 89th level Dragon Lord quite afraid. The horror goes without saying. Fusion, absorption, and transformation. As if there was a special voice in my mind guiding me, Qinglian's transformation was smooth and natural. However, when the abundant fire attribute energy from the source of the strange fire poured into his whole body, Jiang Xian felt as if his body was about to explode, not because of destructiveness, but simply because of the feeling that water could not fill the cup. That's right, for the powerful fire attribute energy, it's at best an inconspicuous small cup. More of the energy is scattered between heaven and earth, while others continuously impact the level 30 level. Quickly, Jiang Xian could feel that the level 30 soul power limit was almost unobstructed and opened. No way. We need to compress it a bit more. Although without a soul ring, the soul master won't grow upwards, Jiang Xian himself understands that the fire of Qinglian's origin gives him a second awakening like a martial soul. Without a soul ring, he can't increase his level again, but energy will be stored and impact his body. Blindly increasing the level of soul power will inevitably lead to a decrease in soul power control, and further efforts in the future will affect cultivation. From the beginning, Jiang Xian was mentally prepared when he obtained the golden finger that was not working properly. His goal was not just to achieve a title Douluo. Cure me. Jiang Xian's face became somewhat twisted, and the massive energy was not completely controllable at his level. However, if he allowed it to merge into his body, the short-term increase in soul power level was definitely not what he wanted to see. First level. 2 levels. Level 3. Enough is enough, we can't increase it any further. Ding, the fusion of martial souls is complete, with a fusion rate of 99%. The task rewards have been distributed, and the next check IN location is Ice and Fire Lianyi I. Just when Jiang Xian was almost unable to hold on, the dam fusion was finally completed. The first time there was too much energy, it was also troublesome. Opening his eyes and ignoring the surprised gazes of others, Jiang Xian gently waved the remaining pure energy around him with his right hand, causing it to be fully absorbed by the green lotus flower. There's no way, Grandpa Long and Grandma are not fire attribute soul masters, and the energy of the strange fire is harmful to them without any benefit. As for Shrek, there is a Ma Hongjun who can absorb this energy, but both sides have this relationship. Why should Jiang Xian leave it for someone who may become an enemy? The Qinglian Earth Heart Fire has never had a moment of energy satisfaction since awakening, just like a swordsman who has never been satisfied with blood. Hahaha, truly my precious grandson, level 30. It's actually level 30. Long Gong laughed as Jiang Xian finished his cultivation and felt his physical condition. Shrek's side can naturally hear it too. Level 30. 12 years old. My mother, fake it, that's the true monster. What is the concept of level 30 at the age of 12? I have hardly heard of it on the surface in Douluo continent's cultivation for so long. Qian Renshu's innate level 20 does not count. If someone else were to say so, most people would probably not believe it. But now the exaggerated laughter of the Dragon Lord was almost enough to overturn Shrek, and they couldn't help but disbelief. It turns out that someone's cultivation speed is comparable to that of a demon. Yes, but such a demon has been rejected by the teachers in our college. Is it true that father asked us to join this village college? Upon hearing Long Gong's undisguised words, the students who were already skeptical became even more talkative. The Dragon Lord Snake Granny didn't neglect Shrek's side. She waited until the flames completely disappeared, and the Snake Granny used her hands and feet to inspect her obedient grandson. There's nothing wrong with it, isn't there? You dare to do such a big thing as awakening your martial soul here. It's okay, Grandma. I'm not doing well. I can't control the awakening of my martial soul either. Humph, it's okay. I'll settle accounts with you when I go back. What's wrong? I still learned how to sneak around, but now I'm satisfied to come to this college where people are underestimated by the dog's eyes. The snake woman chattered on, caring about her grandson's physical condition and intentionally or unintentionally mocking the nearby crowd. Although the voice is small, it can still be heard clearly with the hearing of a high-level soul master. Upon hearing this, what can Fran do? If he says something, it's like splashing water. The rule is that Fran has made it difficult for him. Can it be said that Li Yusong is not his Shrek teacher, but just a temporary worker? The few Shrek students who have already joined have raised doubts, it's difficult to handle. You said that your grandson, a legendary dragon and snake, did not accept the family's teachings and came to his own shabby elementary schoolyard for nothing. You sincerely want to embarrass yourself. Long Gong just stood on the side quietly watching his wife, observing that the stinky boy's body was not very good. Not only was his martial soul awakened again, but his soul power also exceeded level 30. After hunting down the third soul ring, they will be the youngest soul masters in the whole continent. Such talents have been called useless by a group of petty disciples, and the more I think about them, the more angry I become. Under the constant interaction, Jiang Xian couldn't help but know his grandfather's inner thoughts. A smile appeared on his lips, indicating that I should handle it myself. Long Gong's eyebrows are frivolous, let's settle the accounts later, stinky boy. Seeking recommendation, seeking monthly pass. Brothers, today is New Year's Eve. Do you have more tickets, maybe 1 or 2 more chapters or something more? End of this chapter.